7 days of rest and sacred renewal. The 5th annual global event for the healing and thriving of Earth and all her inhabitants. During the first 7 days of the new year, we unite around the world to renew ourselves and our sacred bonds with each other and with all of life, with uncompromising commitment to living the truth of who we are. We rebirth ourselves, individually and collectively, as wise and loving stewards of creation. Together, we lay the foundations and prepare for a new era of love and wisdom in action.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Rest in Resonance. This is our day 4 of our 7 days of rest and sacred renewal. And this is our offering as part of the 7 days of rest and sacred renewal. That is a global event that's happening all around the world. And I decided right now I really want to share my screen and show you what is happening over on the website of 7 Days of Rest and Renewal, in case you haven't been there. And there's a link for every day, and there's some information on it. And if you click down on the gallery of all of the events, this is what you'll find. I wanted to bring this up because today is about communing. And look at all of the ways that we're gathering all around the world every single day. There's so much richness here for you to be able to enjoy and share. And this is happening. So we're communing not only with each other on this call, but we're communing with people all around the world who are dedicating their time, their energy, their presence, their attention, their intention on sacred rest and renewal. So Gary, I want to invite you on as we're saying hello to everyone. And I want to start by saying, I really want us to be attending to our breath today. You know, I offered up a little breath meditation yesterday. And I'm going to add you here, Gary, add your spotlight. A meditation, a very, very simple one where we breathe in. So we're breathing in life, and then we pause in that fullness. We just allow for the same amount of time that we breathed in, we allow for us just to hold that breath and feel the fullness. And then we release, and I really want us today, like just every cell, like really feel inside of your body. Where do you still need to let go a little bit? To let this life really fill you. So we breathe in life, we pause in that stillness and in that fullness, and then we just exhale and just let everything just soften and open. And then we pause in the emptiness. I really want to invite us to do that today as we're moving into this state of communing, because the quality of the presence that we bring into the field is the gift that we're giving to the whole. And the quality of what each of us brings the vibration up. It creates a resonance that allows us to go deeper, to let go more than we can ever accomplish alone. And so I just really, in the start of today, because communing is really something that's nurtured me my whole life, when I feel us all coming together around a shared purpose, the field creates the space for us to really soar. So let's just do that for just a minute, Gary, before you speak. Let's all just do that breathing. And all day today, anytime you find yourself getting distracted, just follow that little breath pattern. So breathing in life, resting in that fullness, exhaling and letting everything soften. Resting in the stillness, the emptiness. Yeah, Gary communing. That's what we're doing. We're joining our genius. We're coming into resonance with one another, and we're allowing the synergy of our energy to express itself in ways that we couldn't do alone. I love you.
Oh, Teresa. You know, this phrase that I used to say when I was scoring music for Graceful Passages was when the interviewee, whether it was Ram Dass or Thich Nhat Hanh, whoever, when they dropped into total coherence with alignment with their higher self, no music was necessary. And that's how I felt when you just did what you did. You took it to another layer of embracing the now in the way that was music to my ears. It's just music when it's in coherence like that and in service. So thank you for, I am truly in awe of the synergy that that is coming forth between us as we share our gifts together. So thank you.
Well, let's launch in and
Yeah,
let's
let's
all
do it.
really settle, and really the quality of your attention today, the quality of your presence today is what you're infusing into this communion.
So what I would like to do is bypass Kaylin the attunement video because we've now accomplished the purpose of that. I can already feel in the field that the attunement video is for us to do what Teresa just did with all of us, right? So it was accomplished. So no need to play. I think now we can dive right into the cultivation tool of this piece called Into the Mystery.
Mm.
And I have to tell you all that I'm so excited about this because it's like the psychonauts that we are diving into the tracking of what is this miracle of music, that's sculpted vibrations that has some sort of vibrational effect that when it interacts with our biology, it creates an emotional experience that is beyond words, but profoundly present, right? A way of being completely present, right? So this piece of music was when I was experiencing so much despair. And my dear beloved brother, Michael Stillwater, said, well, there are a lot of people that love Graceful and they probably want you to play piano. So I went to the piano, terrified, and sat down, and this is what came out for the first of an album called Winter Faith. And I have a secret to tell you, which is when it happened, something came home. My ego rested, and yes, I wasn't Keith Jarrett, but I was Gary Malkin. Suddenly. So let's take this out of the personal Gary Malkin story and let's dive into what Teresa invited us into. And how can we receive the music as a landscape for our inner exploration of our coherence? And so here it is, audio only. Close your eyes if you feel open to that. I am so delighted to now be open, the way listening can cleanse us, to this message we're about to hear with music created many years ago from James O.D. Just now listen to this spoken word and music piece, knowing, first of all, that James has been an embodiment, James Fox, of following his purpose and his passion in a way that we all are striving for. Allow yourself to commune now with the times we are living in which we are living. And that's what this piece is for, is to now dive into communing with our world at this moment. Audio only.
You were born for such a time as this. I ask you to look at your world. In fact, I beseech you not to live in denial. Be courageous and face this moment in time consciously and with all the discernment and clarity within your power. With intellect, with heart, with spiritual intelligence, decipher the hour, the moment in evolutionary time that calls you to be a witness. Indeed, you are called, whether you are young or old. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here now in this defining epoch of Earth's story and of the human story itself. You were born for such a time as this. I know that you must feel challenged, because we are all challenged. The air we breathe is challenged. The oceans are challenged. The great forests, the birds, the fish, the frogs, the butterflies, and thousands of species of Earth's great masterpiece of life are challenged in every way. Heroic efforts are being made everywhere to raise the alarm and bear witness to ecological destruction, disease, poverty, genocide, violent conflict, and hostile aggression. The scale of humanity's challenges can seem overwhelming. As I ask you not to live in denial, I also ask you not to become disillusioned, to throw your hands up in despair, or to become numbed. For we know that this is the time for an awakened consciousness, for alertness, for a heightened focus and clarity about the nature of our challenges. An awakened consciousness is fundamentally different than one which is distracted, anxiety-ridden, or preoccupied with blame. An awakened consciousness is radically open to transformation at all levels, from you, the individual, to the collective. You were born for such a time as this. if you have the courage to face the threat and peril Earth and all life now faces, then I believe you must also have the courage to face that in the midst of dissolution, of systemic breakdown, and the collapse of unsustainable behaviors and worldviews, there is something stirring that offers hope, that offers the possibility of personal, social, and even global transformation. This stirring within consciousness itself heralds a clear understanding that once we see the damage being done to the whole, we can no longer aggressively pursue the limited self-interest of the parts. When the parts are at war with each other, then the whole suffers. This is true in the health of an individual, as it is in a family, as it is so for a society, and as we now see for the earth in its entirety. More than anything, transformation requires courage. The courage to face the truth that your own being has great depth. Yes, that within you consciousness can flow from separate little islands of thought and conditioned response to a seemingly oceanic sense of receptivity, connectivity, and coherence. You live at a time when mystical and metaphysical sciences, based on thousands of years of experiential work, are in dialogue with contemporary secular scientific modalities. If you were looking for confirmation of depth, interconnectedness, expanded human capacities, the evidence is there. If you were looking for the evidence of the transformative power of love and forgiveness, gratefulness and altruism, the evidence is there. If you were looking at the role consciousness plays in physical, emotional, psychological, and social healing, the evidence is there. You were born for such a time as this. In honoring uniqueness and diversity in the context of interdependence, we have begun to glimpse as never before a world that works for all. It takes courage to speak on behalf of the whole, to be a voice for the earth and for its diverse species, for all human life, for a consciousness that knows that peace is our inheritance and that our responsibility is to reveal our interdependence. It takes courage to dialogue and illuminate new possibilities for humankind. It takes courage to reach towards a vision that transforms enemies into allies and disillusionment into hope. But you were born for such a time as this.
this is a great moment to bring James in. If we can have James on, it would be wonderful.
I was just going to say something about that. It reminded me, of that quote that has guided my life this whole 25, 30 years, and has given me this real sense of hope, and that is around when a system is far from equilibrium, which we are right now, that he spoke about in that piece. That small islands of coherence in that sea of chaos have the capacity to lift the entire system to a higher order. And on our, I think it was November Pulse, we had Jim Garrison, and he described what Prignogene actually meant by that. And he said that it was the coherence's capacity, the islands of coherence, the individual and collective coherence capacity to absorb the chaos, right? Is our love great enough? Is our love deep enough, individually and collectively, to actually let it in? That's what that was saying, the courage to let in what's occurring and know that bringing it into that coherent state is what will lift it all to a higher order. So I was feeling that as, all the feelings you have when somebody's calling us to the mat, right? Calling us to the mat, that we know that it's this centering presence that actually is what's going to help shift. So thank you, Gary, for that. Confronting and also inspiring.
Yeah, and this is why I've invited James today, because James and I have a history of being beloved friends. But what I saw when I was with you for dinner a couple months ago was the shining bodhisattva that you've become, and so invisible of personal gain interests, and really, really. So I just want to welcome you, James, as the founder of the Prison Yoga Project. And I just want to admit, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, that I was living in a bubble that did not include my awareness of anything behind bars and anyone behind bars. I was so shocking when I was sitting across from my friend and realized that you spent the last 20 years, if not more, cultivating the moment where you could serve the humanity of these people that are spending their lives behind bars. And I just felt the emotional and spiritual and social intelligence it requires to go to San Quentin and not have any judgment, or, just to be in the state of giving. So I'd like to, I know we're dropping in midstream in the river rather than a proper introduction, but please presence yourself to this community. And I'm so grateful you're here, James.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful gift of being a guest on Rest and Resonance, and for that beginning, allowing me to really drop in deeply and really experience what this is all about. Yeah, there's so many different feelings that I experienced from the beginning. And it felt to me somewhat like I was coming in from the front lines of, the social justice movement. As you know, when I leave our event today, I'm going into San Quentin to teach. And it's been almost 20 years that I've been going in there on a weekly basis when I'm not traveling. And
by the way, you should all know, when he means traveling, he means he's been invited by other governments on the training programs for the yoga teachers to bring some of the most successful plans addressing recidivism rates. So check out later, of course. But I just wanted to honor that your life is this. It's not a casual volunteer, right? I just wanted to interject that. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, after being a dedicated yoga practitioner for many years, in 2000, I decided to get my teacher certification. And I was very clear, I didn't want to teach yoga in yoga studios. I wanted to bring yoga to people who weren't being availed of yoga. And so what began was a prayer of how's that going to manifest? And really what it came down to is, how can I be of service? How can I take the principles and the benefits of what I've experienced from yoga and put it into action in the world? And this began my path of karma yoga. And it's, I look at it from the standpoint, it's not such a big deal. I mean, I answered a call, and we all have a call. If we can clear away all of the mind chatter and all of the distractions, and if we can put that prayer out into the universe, the answer will come. And sometimes the answer comes and you go, oh, no, not that. Could it please be another answer? But my answer was very clear, because I was asked to bring yoga into San Quentin in 2002. And then one thing led to the next. And so here I am 20 years later with a international organization that I never thought would happen. I think particularly for people like you were saying, Gary, we have 2.25 million people in the United States who are incarcerated. That's 1 in 100 adults. But when you include people who are still on parole, probation, so on and so forth, it's about 7.3 million. That's 1 in 31 adults.
Wow.
And these are among the most marginalized people in society, because public opinion in many cases presents them as not worthy of redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in jail and throw away the key for what they've done. And, in terms of being called to practice the Dharma in whatever way we're called, in whatever spiritual practice we're called to do that in, being able to see the higher self of an individual, the divine in an individual, can be very challenging when you're working with people who've caused so much harm. And it's always, the way that I've always looked at it, it's always a reflection of myself, right? It's like, okay, maybe they've caused severe harm in their lives. What about the harm that I've caused? And what about the harm that I may still be causing? So doing this work of essentially karma yoga, and the more that I sat with it over the years, I wanted to identify what is the main impulse of being engaged in karma yoga. And the answer that came to me was to do my part to relieve the pain and suffering of people in the world. And in so doing, and here's the secret, in so doing, I'm relieving my own pain and suffering. And that incredible exchange of being of service in whatever way that you're being of service is, you're the winner. You're the winner in being of service. And depending on who you serve, and by the way, a distinction between helping and serving. Because if you see yourself as the helper, you immediately put yourself in a position of, I'm the helper and people need my help. So you put yourself in a superior position with people, rather than, I'm here to serve and understand that in serving, I benefit as much as anybody that I serve.
I want to say something to you, which is that one of the things that I am aware of is, by setting up an introduction of you and your work with sensitizing our multisensory awareness with music, is that I'm able to commune with you and your commitment, even more deeply because I'm more here with you, right? And sometimes that isn't entirely enjoyable because it hurts to feel that there's millions of people. Like when Barbara Mark Hubbard said that the noosphere is that container, right? And I thought of Desmond Tutu dying recently, and when he gave his speech in various contexts, he said, we're either all going up that mountain together or we're not going over it at all. In a paraphrase. So this is why I want to thank you for being, for being here and also being in my life, to be able to help me see the ways in which I make my life more manageable by not being sensitive to what's actually happening. And to see you do this beautiful work. So continue on and lead into your meditation. But bottom line is the communing that you are doing with the being in the prisons is a demonstration of an important capacity. And I'm grateful that you're sharing it with us.
Well, being alive today and in a state of awakened consciousness requires a willingness to have your heart to be broken over and over and over again. And to have the courage to deal with a broken heart, to know that through community, through Sangha, through communing with one another, through supporting one another, and through doing our own work, and through being dedicated to our own practices, that we can build the resilience to carry a broken heart. And that oddly enough, the joy can come from being able to have that level of resilience.
Wow. I don't know about this. It's moving a place inside of me that is so powerful, James, that because it is the essence of communing. What you just said is you have to be willing to live and tolerate and even serve the garden of a broken heart. That is our job. And I just want to say that your presence back in my life since we connected a few months ago has had an effect on me. That night had an effect on me. You're here because it had an effect on me. There's something cracking open that I just want to thank you for. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the feeling's mutual. It's wonderful to be in communion with you again, Gary. I love you, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I just wanted to say a couple of more things about that.
Yeah, good. I'm gonna put my mute on. I love hearing what you have to share.
In terms of dealing with this fear, and fear of those people who are incarcerated, fear of those people who live in a particular part of town, whatever kind of fear that any of us might have of particular kinds of people. In addressing that, it's really a process of self-inquiry. It's really a process of discovering, what it is that we don't know about ourselves. And maybe where we learned that fear. Where did that fear come from? From community, from family, from relationships, whatever the case might be, and being willing to drop into that self-inquiry. And then being able to, particularly as it pertains to people who come from different backgrounds, the whole movement of Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement and all these things that have occurred in the last couple of years. And I'm sure for many of us, all of us, particularly white people who are sitting on the sidelines going, I feel all of this, but how do I make that step How do I make that step into some kind of an engagement? And it's not like, okay, all of a sudden I'm going to change my life and I'm going to carry this banner of Black Lives Matter. I think it begins with that self-inquiry. It begins with discovering what our implicit biases are about and realizing that it's not like those are going to go away right away, but in having a willingness to meet the other, those other people who we don't understand, who we don't know, in a real, genuine, open, inquisitive way, which you and I talk about this when we had dinner, which has a lot to do with listening rather than knowing, and putting aside, being humble enough to just be there and go, you know what? I really don't know. I really don't know. How can I learn? How can I learn to be with you, to genuinely be with you, and not have to put out, well, this is who I am, and these are all the things that I've done as far as social justice goes and all this other, but just to be there and to share. In this, once again, here we come back to communing with one another, just to share the moment with another person authentically and genuinely, and to be interested in another person. And the gold standard is to share loving kindness, is to share kindness toward another human being, and to do that authentically. And I think, again, I think you and I talked about a couple of the things that you asked me, well, if you distilled it down to, some simple things, in terms of the work that you're doing, what is it that makes the greatest connection? And I said to you, kindness, humility, and humanity. Treating people as equal individuals. And of course, it can be extremely challenging, particularly if you know the crime that a person committed, the egregiousness of the crime that a person committed. But that's my work that's been called to me. And in a lot of the poem that James had just read, there were so many things that he talked about in terms of, having the courage to go there.
Right. Well, I am so grateful for you being on and sharing what you're sharing, because I think there's something that is so in your experience, James, around everything you're talking about. You walk the talk, right? So in the spirit of that, I thought it would now be a time for you to give us a loving kindness meditation as a direct experience. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to go into it. I'd actually like to tag on to the beautiful breathing practice that Teresa gave us, and I'd like to tag on to that as we go in, as we prepare for my version of the loving kindness meditation.
So what we could do is have the music happen for however long you want us to practice, guide us in the breath, and then to let the music carry you, and then begin whenever you want to begin. Okay?
Great.
Okay, Kaylin, you can start the track.
So first, I'd like to invite you to see if you can feel the movement of your body as you breathe. Maybe you can rest your awareness on your stomach and feel the movement of your stomach as you breathe, and see if you can breathe slowly And see if you can breathe in through your nose and softly out of your mouth. And see if you can gradually, slowly take a full inhale through the nose and a long exhale out your mouth. Softly, softly. And then as you exhale out your mouth, begin to make the soft sound of ah. Inhaling through the nose. And as you exhale out the mouth, making the sound of ah. See if you can let that sound of ha come from your belly. So we're breathing together as we make the sound of ha, releasing. Just take 3 more breaths like that. And then if it feels right to you, you can place one hand on your stomach and the other hand over your heart. And I invite you to repeat after me the phrases that I'm going to speak. I'm going to do 3 rounds of 4 phrases. And I invite you to repeat them after me. And I'll begin with the first phrase. May I be kind to myself. May I be healthy in mind and body. May I be safe from internal and external harm. May I be happy and at peace. May you be kind to yourself. May you be healthy in mind and body. May you be safe from internal and external harm. And may you be happy and at peace. May I be kind to myself and to others. May I and others be healthy in mind and body. May I and others be safe from internal and external harm. And may I and others be happy and abide in peace. Namaste. That's one of the standard practices that I use. We don't call our practices meditation practices. We call our practices centering practices.
But hold on, James. Hold on one sec, because I wanted Kaylin to fade the music. And what I'm learning from Teresa in this process is feeling the ripples of what you just did. And I just, that is kind of the great reward, as you said, of service is, and patience and all these wonderful qualities, is that we get to experience them. So we get to right now simmer in the contribution you just gave us. So let's just do that for a minute. As we bear witness to the ripples of your intention and your practice and your commitment and your love and your consciousness to respecting and honoring the dignity and the humanity of everyone. I'm so moved by you and your work. And thank you for showing me whole new dimensions of what seva and service is all about in a way that makes it so relevant to our own personal evolutionary story, the way you bring it home. So, Teresa, before we play the video, I would just love us to be with your reaction of this.
Yeah, James, that was just beautiful. And it was just what I was saying to Gary I wanted today, which was just this more spaciousness where we just really keep dropping in deeper so that we can really be present to what is occurring in our lives, and to bring our love in the face of whatever we face, right? Like really choose care and compassion and love. And when I was in that centering, because you connected me with the people that you're serving, right? And I was touched by it, like 1 in 36 adult people, and how much trauma and pain has actually been at the foundation of those people. Probably they were hurt, right? And their response was hurt. So when I was there in the meditation, your transmission, I knew that this is something you do with your people that you're serving. So all of a sudden I was there. I was with you. I was with beautiful men choosing and women choosing to kind of get present in the face of what they're facing. And I felt the field of all of us on this call, all of us that are listening, all of us that are just presencing. I felt us all there together and just being. Like, we want to keep opening our hearts so that we can be present to this moment. And we can breathe through it together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. That's where the fear dissipates. That's the antidote.
Yeah.
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 This is cracking me open. So just because of the fact that we are expanding in time, each one has gotten longer and longer. I'm going to move to the next experience, but please, we'll all get back on, the three of us, to respond to how it moved the field even further. And I felt it's so fun to create these run-up shows, because I pick from these thousands of pieces that I've created over the last 30 years, and suddenly it's like planting a seed in the perfect soil for which the tree to grow. And somebody is calling me, my goodness. Hold on, sorry. I don't know how that happened. Sorry about that. So anyway, this is a transformance, an improvised experience with Sarah McCrum and me on forgiveness. And I just really want to consecrate the playing of this to, may we continue and extend the metta prayer, the loving kindness prayer, to forgiving ourselves and one another as a daily practice, as a moment-to-moment practice. And I'll see you on the other side. Thanks, Kaylin.
Let's forgive each other and forgive ourselves. Let's love each other and love ourselves. Let's make peace with each other and make peace with ourselves. Let's call on divine help to forgive each other and forgive ourselves. Let's call on divine help to love each other and to love ourselves. And let's call on divine help to make peace with each other and to make peace with ourselves. Let's all forgive each other and forgive ourselves. Let's all love each other and love ourselves. Let's all make peace with each other. And make peace with ourselves.
Teresa. Let's all three be on together. I just love how sharing in the listening softens everything for me. And everything seems more precious and something from which I'm even more grateful.
Yeah, this is such a precious moment in time, like when we can really touch the precarious and potentiated nature of this moment together, like authentically. Something profound opens up inside. James, it's so lovely to have you with us today. And I kind of want to invite your voice in a little bit, like you kind of shared so deeply with us and presenced yourself and got some reflections back from the field in your sharing. And I just wonder if there's something your heart wants to say.
Just gratitude. Gratitude for this moment. Gratitude to be alive. To be awake. And gratitude to have access to communities like this, communities of support, because I'm carrying this into San Quentin State Prison with me in an hour from now, or an hour and a half from now. And I'll go in and I'm going to go in and meet 15 men and begin to practice yoga together for 90 minutes. And I will carry this with me.
Well, and I want to tell you that we are with you and carrying you with us as you, and we want to just consciously, all of us, take this community and to send our love, our presence, our support for you and all of your team internationally and all the yoga practitioners you have trained to sensitize themselves to being of service at this profound level. But right now, you're sensitizing everyone in the spiritual world and the sometimes what might be called a bubble. And we're cracking open the walls between our blindness and our myopia into expanding it to the beautiful beings that you're serving all over the world. And we're with you now forever. And just feel us carrying you, holding you, supporting you. And this is a good time, Teresa, to start to share the information about, we'll have a final piece from, in about 5 minutes, because that's the piece. But I'd love you to share the relevant information if people want to know how to support James's work. It's pretty remarkable what you've accomplished. You're one of my heroes, buddy.
Yeah.
You really are. You really are.
Gary, instead of playing our regular kind of slides of what's next, I think what I'd really like to use this little bit of time for is for James to share more about your work. That's what we would do, but I would do it with a slide up. And I think I'd like to do it just with you speaking, and I'll put the links in the chat. And that way you have an opportunity to really tell us what that's all about and how we can support that if we feel inspired. Is that good, Gary? Are you okay with that?
I surrendered to you.
Great.
Yeah, we had about 5 minutes before we need to start something else, but let's do that.
So you'd like me to share a little bit more about our work and what we do, so on and so forth?
So people can understand what they might be supporting also.
Sure.
So it's really the understanding of that.
So prior to COVID, we were bringing yoga and meditation practices into prisons in 19 states, jails and prisons in 19 states. And we've been able to get back into a handful of prisons, but we're still closed out because of the variant. And so we've come up with other kinds of resources, printed resources, video resources, to continue our services in prison. And we're hoping that things are going to open up this year. And then we also have Prison Yoga Project has chapters. We have a Prison Yoga Project in Mexico. We have a Prison Yoga Project in several European countries. And all of this came about as a result of trainings that began in 2011, where we began, or I actually began training yoga teachers, but then it expanded to healthcare workers, social workers, therapists who had yoga practices, who were involved in the criminal justice system and really wanted to understand what it was that we were doing, and could incorporate some of our practices, be them conscious breathing practices, be them short meditative practices, be them some simple movement practices in the work that they're doing. And so we've trained more than 3,500 people all over since 2011. Another major part, which actually began in 2010 when I wrote Yoga, A Path for Healing and Recovery. We made that yoga manual, practice manual, available to any prisoner who wrote us, and we sent it to them free of charge. And since 2010, we've sent more than 36,000 copies of the book, which has planted seeds in jails and prisons all over, everywhere. And it really helped to propel our work, kind of, planting the seeds, right on the ground floor of where the practice was needed most. And so we still send out around 250 letters, 250 books a month. And myself and our program director in Europe, who works with women in Sweden, she's in Sweden, we co-wrote a book for women prisoners last year, and now we're sending that out. It's called Freedom from the Inside. And it's specifically oriented toward women and women's issues. Fantastic book. Her name is Josephine Wickstrom. She's the main author. I'm the co-author of that book. We have, now we can, because of COVID, we took the in-person foundational training, and it's now an online training. It's a 24-hour online training that can be done by people at their own timing. And it's very social justice oriented. It's got 6 parts to it. And we don't even get into yoga until the 3rd part. The first 2 parts are all about social equity issues, really understanding and educating yourself about the criminal justice system, the prison system. And we're also doing that now in Europe, and we're also doing that in Spanish. It's available. It's a virtual training, and we also offer for people who are interested in becoming certified as yoga teachers. We offer the standard 200-hour certification training with a focus on bringing yoga into communities, marginalized communities, not yoga studios. There's plenty of yoga teachers for yoga studios, but we want to prepare people who can go into communities and do the work of conscious relationship and bringing yoga, and also diversify the face, the representation of yoga teachers. Beautiful. So we have a lot of scholarships for that, for cultural diversification.
Thank you, James.
This is really,
so there's several other things, but we've got a lot of things on our plate.
You've been a
Yeah.
busy boy, my friend. Yeah, gorgeous.
Yes, I put the link in the chat so people that are interested in finding out more or how they can support the projects that you're doing. This is the time in this new year where we channel the resources that flow through our life to the things that are inspiring and empowering us. So anything that we're sharing over these 7 days, if you feel inspired, please help these things continue to happen. And I put links in the chat to Gary's website because that's where we can go and find all the information that we've been hearing, the music, the offerings, the islands of coherence, the global coherence pulse. And also there's the replay for any of these. If you need them, there's a link there that you can access all of those, and the 7 days of rest website I showed you when we first got on. There's so much there. It is I don't know. I felt almost overwhelmed this morning by how many things were happening around the world.
Well, just treat it as what I suggest when something like that happens. Treat it like you're picking an oracle, a book from a card from the oracle. It's just okay, because this is a field you can trust. So it's like a deck, right? And you just say, okay, and you pick one, and you know that you kind of trust the laws of synchronicity and bringing that one to you. That's the way to overwhelm to deal with the overwhelm. But I want to complete for this time now, because we got comments that we shouldn't assume that everyone will be available till later than now. So I'm going to honor that and just reiterate the request to go to the website 7 Days of Rest and to use it for the purposes of reminding you all the ways that we can receive, listen, drop in to the sacred renewal that this is all about. James, I want to thank you. I'm going to go right to a song, but I just want to thank you for just hitting it out of the park. This is just been the bridge of bringing you and the work you do in the sector you do into this world has been such a irrigation of meaning for the realm that we normally go through. It's just, I feel irrigated. I feel emulsified. I feel opened. I feel so moved. And I just can't wait to do more of this interaction and bridging with you, James, because I feel so moved by it. So this next song was created, I produced and arranged it for Jason Schulman, who's really one of the world's esteemed wisdom keepers. I don't even know if I asked him if he could join us today, and he wrote all these chants and songs that were directed to God, to the divine. And so this is the one song out of the whole album that I produced that is really directed from God to us. All the other songs are to God, but this one, as I see it, is one, if the only. So allow yourself to feel the joy and allow yourself to move to it of God singing to you. And then we'll do a brief close afterwards. And this is audio only. Thank you, James. You got to go.
Have to say goodbye.
Yeah, I love you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Love.
Oh, no. Sorry, Kaylin. Kaylin, don't play the video. Sorry. Play the audio only, please. Sorry about that. We'll just be, there we go.
When I ask why, you always say to me, why do you talk as if you're alone? I'm always with you, no matter the time or day. You are never alone. never alone, my dear, never alone, never alone, my dear, you're never alone, never alone, my dear, never alone. You might think you're by yourself, but you're never alone. And when I cry, 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 you always comfort me. You say, let those tears just roll on by. And then I feel your arm around me. You are never, 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 never alone. Never alone, my dear, never alone. Never alone, my dear, you're never alone. Never alone, my dear, never alone. You might think you're by yourself, but you're never alone. You turn your face to me and lift me up so high that I can see that I am always with you, never apart from you. Where I walk, you always walk with me. Never alone, my dear, never alone.
That was quite a shocker from all the contemplative work we've done today. I bet you were surprised by that.
I was. It was great. So, I mean, the joy really helps. Like yeah, all kinds of different music do all kinds of different things, and it's helping so much.
So this is another day in our series, and thank you, Teresa. Each one has a remarkable different quality, and thank you everyone for going on this ride with us as we kind of dive into the inquiry of coherence waves itself and who we are when we show up for them. Just
Yeah.
anything last you want to say? Final words, Teresa?
I just love the sentiments around that last transformance, and such a beautiful job you and Sarah have done on those. They're really quite a gift, and I just want to invite us all as we go out into the day that we forgive each other and we forgive ourselves, and we love each other and we love ourselves, and we strive for peace with each other and within ourselves. And and know today that you're not alone, that you're in a field, that we're all rising together. And in the moments where you feel like you really can't face what you're facing, just take a moment to feel yourself connected with so much love, and use that to just fuel you to be able to just open and face what you're facing with some grace and some love and some forgiveness and some kindness and some care and authenticity first and foremost.
Aho, aho.
Blessings, everyone.
Well, Teresa, one thing, do you have the hope slide, or can we just, somebody ask you tomorrow?
Yes.
Just for those of you who are still with us, just know that I'm my beloved friend and an extraordinary spiritual guide, Hope Fitzgerald, who came up with this thing you'll hear about called the infinity wave. She's just magnificent, and it's about how all the multiple ways that we can experience the paradigm of sharing in every way possible. So although she herself doesn't define herself that way, I couldn't imagine her being any other day, and you're going to love her. So thank you for joining us today, and